welcome back again, everybody. This is Annabelle and Mark, and this is our life in France. Thanks for coming back to the channel, and if you're new, well, welcome. You are most welcome. And today, as promised, we are going to go through buying a house in France and the process of buying here, and our process, our experience, because like we've always said, we can only speak from our experience, but you know, this is the law and this is the way it is when you buy in France, so this is how it will be for everyone, but we will speak of our experience from our point of view and tell you how it all went. And
absolutely. I mean, we've gone from a slightly different position to some, because I know some of you coming from the UK may well have a property to sell, so you'll be buying outright. We didn't have that. We actually had to have a mortgage. So there was other steps we had in place, which was something slightly different to some who would be buying. But we can cover that quickly in regards to the bank and so forth, because that was actually far easier than I expected when it came to getting a mortgage.
Yes. In fact, we'd never been to a bank before to talk about our plans for buying a property. Not in the UK, not anywhere. We've never been very well kind of organised in that sense.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. We've just never done it.
It was hard in the UK. We could never save enough money for the deposit to buy a property. That's part of the problem, as many know. You can afford the rent and everything. That's not a problem. You can afford the mortgage, but the bank won't give you a mortgage in the UK because they don't think you can afford it. Although clearly you can. But when it came to buying in France, and when we went into the bank. And we talked about buying, they were really open. They were like, yep, no problem at all. This is what do you earn?
We were already customers though. So they knew who we were, but they would still help. They would have helped us regardless of that. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. They were very, very helpful, and they gave us a lot of hope. And they actually made us realise that it's possible, and there were options. So we just thought, hang on a minute, we can do this. We can do it. And so we got an appointment and sat down, talked about the deposit that we had. So you have to have a deposit, obviously, of some sort, because we did ask for a 0%.
I mean, they actually encouraged us in regards to getting a mortgage. As soon as they asked how much you were earning, obviously, like they do. But the percentage rates in France when we bought, and it's only a couple of years ago now, was 1.8. We've got a mortgage at 1.8%, and it's a fixed rate for 20 years, which you don't get in the UK. I mean, I know in the UK you're lucky if you get a fixed rate for 5 years these days. But at the moment, I think in France it's about 3.4-ish. It's about just over 3%. So even there, it's less than what the UK is, and that's a fixed rate again for 20 years. Yeah. So for us buying, it was kind of a no-brainer when we looked at it, and we thought, well, what can we get for the money, and how much can we get? And the bank was like, well, this is how much is your deposit? This is what you earn. This is how much we can give you. So, and at that moment, that was it. We were all guns blazing, as they say.
Yeah, and he basically said, look, this is your percentage. This is what you have available for your property, and you can go and look for a property within this price range.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, why don't you go and have a look, and then come back to me.
Yeah.
So that's how the search began.
And we did, and it lit the touch paper, and we were, at that moment in time, out looking for a property.
We didn't waste any time. We were just like, this is it. Green light, we're going to do this. And it was very exciting.
It was.
Because we'd never done this before. And this is what we needed for our family and for everything. So it was, brilliant time. So really good bank. So Yes, always go and have a good chat with a bank manager or some sort of advisor.
So the first point would be to make sure you've got the money available. Make sure you've got, make sure you've got the capital available to buy the property before you start. In my mind, before you really start looking, because you don't want to go out, find something and think, oh, I can get it, and then be disappointed. So,
and we kind of did know what we were looking for. So we knew that we were looking for a family home. We wanted to have a nice garden. We didn't need to be in a town because we're not town people. We've always lived near a town, but we wanted to be outside. But to have the accessibility, we needed schools nearby. You know, we knew, but house-wise, we knew we didn't want a new build.
Yeah,
and we wanted something with character.
We did, and we didn't want something which was falling down. You know, we don't mind doing a bit of work, but we didn't want a derelict shell. That wasn't really our thinking or plan.
We didn't want big renovations,
No.
so we didn't mind having to sort of pull the old paper down and fill in a few things and like redo the bathrooms or, you know, we didn't mind that. No. But actually rebuilding parts of the house
wasn't a plan.
Or it's just not something we desired at all.
We did have the house rewired. I suppose that probably
was
the
quite
biggest
a big thing actually. Yeah, so we got it completely all the electrics redone. So that was something that needed doing quick, sharp, because we had old electrics in this house that were like 1940s.
40s, 50s, they was pretty old.
It was the first electrics I think that were ever invented or something. And they were like cotton.
Yeah, it was.
What were they, like cotton wires?
It was frightening.
I've never seen anything like it.
I've never seen anything like it. It was, and it had the old kind of fuses. It was pretty frightening. But
well, when the electrician he was taking the old wires out, and he came and he was like, "Look, this is what your wires are like." And I was like, "Oh my god, that looks really dangerous."
Yeah,
and he was like, "It's really dangerous." So we had to get that done.
Yeah, but that's probably for a different video.
Yeah, but that was a compromise, you know, and that was fine. Yeah. It was like, well, that's, you know, we can get that sorted out, and we then negotiated on the price as well because of that. So you can negotiate and put an offer in basically. But we'll get to that point in just a moment. So when you found your property that you like, and it took us probably a few different ones just to make sure. It's always, but you have to make that compromise and just find that property that you know you can work with, and that when I walked into this property, I knew we could work with it, and we'd already seen a few, maybe, I don't know if we'd seen one or two before this one.
We'd seen a few before this one.
But then when I walked into this one, it just hit me like none of the other ones did. It just spoke to me, and I just went, wow, like my brain couldn't actually comprehend that, you know, we could potentially live here, but I loved it straight away.
It was the one you wanted.
And it's the one that I couldn't get out of my mind. I was then comparing it to all the other houses. Yeah. And then I think it's the estate agent who said, "So what's this other house that you've seen?" And I said, "Oh, it's the house there, and it's like a maisonette." And she was like, "Right, you're never going to find one like that." She said, I know the house you're speaking because it's one of my colleagues. And she phoned up her colleague and she said, "Look, Mr. and Mrs. They want that house. Can you just make sure that they get this sorted, please?" And she was like, "Right, I'm not going to waste my time anymore with you," didn't she?
She did.
So she did well. Yes. So once you found your house, you make an offre d'achat. That's basically what we're saying in French. So then that will be drawn up by the agency, and it's a very simple document. It's then sent to the owners, and they will either accept it or not. And if they do accept it, then you go into the next step, and at that point you can put your deposit down at that point. And before that point though, don't they give you the diagnostics of the house?
Yeah, I mean, one point to mention is you can't make an offer of more than the property. So if more than one person puts an offer in, it's down to the owner to decide which one they would like to accept. So they do have a choice.
Yeah, and then they will give you the diagnostics before you put any money down. They will give you the diagnostics. Yeah. diagnostic.
Yeah.
And that is basically where they hire up companies and they do they check all if there's lead, asbestos, anything like that might be in the house, the condition of the electrical system, the heating, what else? I don't know. Any mechanical issues or structural issues that the property might have. Termite or any kind of infestations or anything like that.
Yeah, it's something, as a seller, they have to do that. They have to have a diagnostic.
Don't they have that in the UK?
No,
it's
the person, I think in the UK, it's the buyer who gets a diagnostic. Whereas in France, it's a bit different. The seller has to do that. And also, I'm sorry, I'm getting quite. It's the seller who has to do that in France. In the UK, not so much. I don't think it's.
No.
It's the buyer. It's the buyer who has to have a diagnostic. And there's no such thing as sold as seen in France as well, as an interesting point to mention. That if you are a seller in France, if you do work on your house, for example, you change the roof on your house, you do it yourself. So you don't actually have someone who does it for you. 9 years later, if the person who bought the house off you, if there's a problem because of the work that you've done, you're held liable. So bear that in mind. It's an important thing to know.
Yeah.
So that any work you have done has a 10-year guarantee on it, or any person you have coming in gives you a 10-year guarantee, and that's it. So it's an interesting point just to note if you're selling, but also if you're buying as well.
So once you've put your offer in and it's been accepted, then you will sign the binding agreement with the property owners, and you then put your deposit down at this stage, which is anything between 10 and 5%
5 and 10%.
The price of the property.
Yeah. I mean, you can put down more as a deposit if you choose to.
You can put as much down as you need to put down, but
absolutely.
there is kind of a bracket, bracket on that.
It's expected to be between 5 and 10%, especially if if you're getting a mortgage, it's between 5 and 10%. But when you're buying, you have to. I think the minimum is 5% that you can put down if you're a cash buyer, for example.
Yes. And then what happened?
At that point, then you've been sent a copy of obviously the diagnostics, and you've then got 2 weeks you've got a cooling down period. So
you can actually pull out.
Yeah, you can pull out of it within that first 10 days, 2 weeks. You can pull out
with no reason. You don't have to have a reason.
Absolutely not.
You can just say, actually, we're not going to do this now.
We're not.
We're not actually in the right position for this financially, or it's not the right property. You don't even have to have a reason, really.
And the notaire will give you get the money back, because it's actually with the notaire at that point when you sign that initial compromise. It's with the notaire, so you'll get the deposit back. If you wait,
it's called a retraction. So that we did do that on one of the properties because we put an offer down. We gave them an offer, didn't we? And we said, look, we'll take it, and it was a farmhouse. And we didn't realise that it had an asbestos roof.
The whole roof was asbestos, so it wasn't ideal for what we wanted.
There was already lots of work to do. It was going to be quite a project for us. It was quite a lot more to take on than we were actually initially looking for. But we did love the land, and we
had great barns.
It was very quaint and very pretty.
There was good options there, but it wasn't this house, and it wasn't at the end. It wasn't what we actually.
So we ended up going to the notaire and all sitting down. We were going through all the process for the buying process, and then they mentioned the asbestos roof, and we hadn't actually. I don't remember them ever mentioning it. And we went to see the property 3 times.
It wasn't mentioned at all. Crazy.
And I don't know whose mistake it was, but I said, look, this, and the notaire looked at me and he said, Madame, this is going to be a problem in French. He said, this is going to be a problem for you, isn't it? And I was like, yes, I just don't think we can go any further than this. And he knew at that point, and he was fine. He just knew. He knew I had a point as well. Because he probably thought, I don't want an asbestos roof on my house.
But in a way, he had a point.
I don't know.
I mean, we did lose out a little bit of our deposit, but
we did lose a tiny bit.
Yeah, we did. But then if you
better that though.
But if you were to pull out, generally speaking, if you were to pull out after that 2 weeks, that deposit is theirs.
Yeah.
That's
you don't get that. Then you lose your deposit.
Yeah.
Whether you move in or not.
No, you don't get it back. But we were quite
and it happens.
Lucky. It does.
I know people who do that. It's happened too.
Yeah, we were quite lucky.
That's not a nice thing to happen.
But bear that in mind. So you have a 2 week cooling down period. If you decide you don't want it, make sure that you pull out within that 2 weeks, and it's in writing. You have to make that retraction in writing to the notaire. So be aware, but providing you're going to move forward and you're going to take the next steps, then you sit down and you have the meeting with the notaire.
Yeah, with the current owners.
Yeah.
So we got to meet them, didn't we, for the first time?
We did.
And we sat down and we just went over just the promise de vente, and it was a very quick meeting. It was, the first one wasn't very intense, was it? Not really.
No.
It was just to legally mention all our names, all of us who were involved, and the property involved, and the diagnostics of the house, so that we are clear about what we're buying. And like we did on the first time, and we pulled out, but this time we didn't pull out.
Right, this time we signed and we moved forward with it.
We couldn't have been happier. So then we signed the sale contract with the notaire. Yeah.
And then the notaire works out the rest of the contract and writes up the rest of the contract.
Yes, that's right.
So at that moment in time, then obviously you're in the process of buying your property, so you need to make sure everything's in place from the bank and
all that your dossier is all complete. So anything that's missing from your dossier, like for example, we had to do our taxe d'imposition that was actually missing, and it was a vital piece of official information that has to be there. We didn't realise it was missing.
No.
And in fact, we didn't even know exactly what that was either. I was like, what's a taxe d'imposition fiscale? What's an imposition fiscale? Yeah. And so then we went to our tax office and we were like, excusez-nous, mais qu'est-ce que c'est, this taxe d'imposition? And she sat down with us and she said, well, normally you have to show and prove that if you want to get a mortgage in France, that you have been working and earning for a year in France in order to obtain this document. And she said, normally it takes a year. And we'd only been here for 8 months, or not even that at the time.
About 7 months at that moment.
Yes, at that moment in time, because the sale was going to take a few months to go through. And I said, well, we've just found our house and we're going through the sales process, and it's with the notaire, and we need it now. We can't wait we've only got a few weeks left. And she was like, oh, I see. She was so good. Yeah. And she said, right, just sit there. And she just looked and she was like, I've got all your tax numbers here. Yeah. And she said, I'm going to write something out for you, put it in your dossier for the bank and the notaire so that they're all happy. And we were just like, oh my God, because that could have been a break moment where we wouldn't have been able to buy.
Absolutely. And that is your yearly tax submission. You submit that, I think it's April, May time. Yeah, you submit it every year if you're paying tax. And if you're self-employed in France, you have to submit that. One thing to note as well, when you're buying a property, is that the local mairie or the local area has the authority and first option to buy the property as well. So although you might have put your offer in for that house, it gets put up to the local town hall, and then they get the offer of, do you want to buy this property before someone else does?
But they do tell you, they say, look, we do have to, by law, ask the mairie if they need your property before you can buy it, because if they choose that they want it, they have first choice, basically.
Yeah, it's a interesting one. I personally don't know anyone it's affected, but
No,
I imagine it has affected
it rarely
some
happens.
people.
It's rare. I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't. So I mean, I wouldn't worry about it. And she said to us, just don't worry about it.
No.
And I didn't worry about it.
No.
I just thought no, because I said to myself, if that house is meant to be, and it's meant to be our house, I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about that. And if they do buy it and we can't get it, it wasn't meant to be, and we have to find the right house for us, because I'm very much like that. I think everything's for a reason, especially when it's coming to buy your house. I think it's a very special thing, and you know. But yeah, it can happen. But
Yeah, it
it's
happens
rare,
sometimes.
very rare.
So yeah, once obviously you've then gone through everything, you're sitting there waiting for the house to be yours and go do the final signing. The sellers obviously need to make sure that the house is as it was when you signed that first form, you saw it first of all, you got your documentation. We liaised with the homeowners and actually bought a lot of their old some of their old furniture and some of their old crockery and things.
We're just that same morning we went to sign the final contract and going to get the keys and everything. We came to visit them at the house here, and we were in this room actually, and we got to meet the mum and the dad, the owners actually of the house, because we've met the daughter, but we haven't met. And they said, would you like to buy the rest of the contents of what's left in the house, because there was some bits of furniture and there was quite a few things. It was like a bit of a brocante in here. It was, wasn't it?
Which is
the
perfect.
cupboards were full, and it was great because I love looking around the house, and I looked at all the stuff that was left in the house, and I was thinking, oh, this is gorgeous, this is lovely.
Lots of useful stuff as well.
So they looked at me and us, and they said, do you know what, it would be really helping us out. And I said, yeah, okay. So we went and had a quick chat, and then we sort of arranged a price.
Made an offer on what we thought the price of what we wanted to have, and then it was accepted. So
we did a verbal agreement.
Yeah, and so that was outside of that. So we paid we paid that separate. That was outside of the contract and everything else.
Yeah,
so
but we made an arrangement.
We did.
It was all fine.
We did. So yeah, and then it was only from us looking at the house and signing that document. It was only 6 weeks. I think it was between us looking, deciding yes we want the house to actually here's the keys. It's like 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
We came to see this house. I think it was in the March. We came to see this house. It was kind of March time.
It was 2 months, wasn't it then?
And then April, May, June, July. We got the keys in July.
Oh, was it as long as that?
Yes.
It felt like it was only like
it
7
took
weeks.
4 months. No.
Did it? That's how it felt like. Didn't feel.
It felt quick, but that's still pretty quick.
Yeah.
I'd say 4 months to do the whole, sale.
Yeah. Get everything in place,
Completion,
the mortgage,
everything, and then we obtained the final acte de vente.
Yep.
So then you will go to your final notaire meeting with the property owners and everything, and with the agent. And if you need a translator, you can ask me, someone like me, to go along with you.
I don't know.
But anyway, so you go and sign your acte de vente, which is a big moment, and that's like your final. And then I remember a lovely moment. It was just such a brilliant moment. I think it's one of the best days of my life, apart from meeting you and having our children.
It's okay.
And but it was one of those, and my getting my driving license. That was like an amazing time. I really loved that, and graduating was a great time. But buying our own house, getting the keys was quite. It took a long time to sink in, and then they gave us the keys.
Yep.
And I remember them being a little bit like
Yeah,
it was very emotional.
Yeah,
it was very emotional for them.
It was very much because they'd lived here 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
It was their family home, and they'd got on. It was a bit too much for them to upkeep, so they'd got themselves a bungalow. But he was very much, oh, you need that key. Well, it's behind there, and if you need to do that, you need to do this. And he was like trying to tell us all the quirks of the property.
He said, I've left the gas key in this little shoe that was hanging up on the wall and stuff like that. And then he'd left another key on next to the sink in a little dish, and he was telling me on the way out as well. We were still talking, and he was taking me by the hand, bless him, and he was saying, you know, the house, it was built by a chateau builder. It's a chateau architect, because he was quite elderly. He's quite an elderly man.
He told us all the history of it.
But he's a local. He was born in the house over the road, and then he lived in this house all his life with his wife and had his children here.
Dad lived here 30, more than that, when it was 40 years, I think.
And he told us about this house, and yes, and so I've been looking into that, and he's right. Obviously, this house is designed by a chateau architect, a local one. Yeah. And then eventually you will receive your attestation de vente. The notaire might give it to you directly when you're there, or it can take up to a year to come through the post. It can take a little while to receive it. And this says basically that the sale has been completed, and then it's got the previous owner's names on there, and it says with the new owner's details and names on there.
And we've got, I can't remember seeing
ours,
but
we have. I think we got it pretty quickly. I think they gave it to us there and then, actually, and we walked off with our dossier and our file and our keys.
Our documentation and that.
And I remember we got in the car, and it was July, and it was sunny and warm. And the children, it was their last day of school. They were on holidays that day, and we all came, because we'd been visiting the house on and off. I even came just to drive by it, to come and have a look at it, to say hello. But then we just came straight over with our keys, and it was just brilliant.
So, and that was the fun of us buying the house.
That was our experience, basically.
It was. It was. I mean, things I think, some points to think about when you're buying.
Practical points.
Points when you're buying a house. We're lucky here, and we're lucky in many ways for this house, but we're on main sewerage, and we've also got a well. So we're on mains water, but we've also got a well under the house.
Yes.
But the first property, one thing we had to have was it needed a new fosse septique. So it had two faucets. A septic tank.
Yes.
Because of where it's located, it wasn't on main sewer. So bear that in mind.
And they both needed replacing. So if we had bought that one, it would have been like 30,000 euros gone on the replacement of those.
And they've got to be of a certain age, and there's a lot of houses that haven't been replaced.
Lots of houses do have those, because when they're rural houses, they have them, don't they?
Yeah, and if it's not up to spec and it's not of a certain age, you get fined each year for not replacing it. So you do have to have it done. And I don't think the fine is anything crazy. I don't think it's a few hundred euros, but that's not the point. You've got to actually have that done. So it's something to think about. Also, if you're buying to rent it, so if you're buying to rent it out as a holiday home, for example, bear in mind the energy ratings. If you want to rent it for long-term rental, it has to be within a certain energy performance rating. So you've got to be a bit careful.
There are new laws that have come in, so it's always good to keep an eye on what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because they change quite regularly at the moment. Everything does, the taxes and different laws and clauses and things.
There's always something.
But and I would also always check to see with the mairie. Talk to the mairie, the local town hall. Ask them questions. Write them an email. you know, you can always write it, Google it in English and get it, do the translation if you don't know how to, but I think we all do that sometimes when you need to. But send them an email or call them or go in person, ask them about the local area, the town, or wherever you're buying, any plans of construction, any, local companies or industrial companies or factories, or anything that could be going on in the area, expansions or anything like that going on.
Yeah, I mean, factories are mentioned. I think they're mentioned as part of your diagnostic and part of your
true.
contract. So
the notaire actually did.
Yeah, they have to say if it's in a floodplain, if there's factories nearby, what factories are nearby, what issues are there, and it's. Actually, the diagnostics is very detailed in that sense.
Very detailed, actually. But it's still good to speak to the mairie.
Definitely.
Because then the mairie can also give you any more information that might be useful to you that you didn't know, or,
Yeah, for sure.
So it's always worth giving that. Okay? And you're going to see that living in France, the mairie is a really important place. It's a really important place, office for everyday life living in France. So a lot of things go through the mairie, and we will go through that in another video, things like that.
We shall.
Because that's interesting, and it's always good to know, because sometimes you don't realise it, and these things, until you live here.
You don't.
And then you do know about it.
It's a video in its own right, that one.
Yeah. But I think we have covered everything on the buying side.
I think that's it.
If you've got any questions or we've missed anything, then just drop them in the comments. That's fine. We can always answer, or
please do,
anything you want to add. It's fine.
Don't hesitate don't hesitate to ask.
No, keep it positive.
We're here to help.
Friendly.
You're here to help.
And we're always happy to help.
Absolutely. And I'd say thanks ever so much for watching the video. Like, subscribe, and all of that stuff, and any comments, if there's any videos you want to see or any information you want, please ask.
And I know that someone's been asking questions about the sort of living in France and family life, and we're going to get through it, because we do have a structure of like the videos that we're doing.
Definitely.
We're sort of working our way through them, and we're going to get to that point, because there's some really interesting things to talk about there. And we hope that you've enjoyed this video. We hope that you enjoy the channel, and don't forget to subscribe, and I think we've said all of that bit. And have a brilliant day, have a lovely weekend, good week ahead. Let's enjoy the spring, and let's just enjoy everything that we can. I think take care of yourself.
Enjoy the sun. Speak soon.
And we see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.